Hello, so this video is for the final chapters 1 through 3 presentation for my study, which is researching the effects and perceptions of high intensity interval training on health, vitality, and fitness. So first and foremost, the purpose of the study is to observe the impact of high intensity interval training on three main areas and two main areas, which is overall health and vitality for the participants in the study. Also, additionally with that, I'm looking to obtain the perceptions of my subjects once they have undergone the 6-week training regimen to see their perceptions on fat reduction, muscle gain, and just the overall perception of the rigorous training program. The main questions that I intend to answer is number one, what are the perceptions of high intensity interval training on body fat reduction? The second one being, what are the perceptions of high intensity interval training on muscle gain? And the last one being, what are the participants' overall perceptions of high intensity interval training as a whole? When it comes to my values, faith, and beliefs in this study, as me being a formal personal trainer and athlete, I believe health and fitness is just the overall foundation to my life in general. From the young age of 8 years old, I've been in athletics, and up until now, although I don't compete in track and field anymore, I still work out regularly throughout the week just to maintain my health and fitness overall, because I know once I get older, it's going to be, gravity takes a toll, and things become a lot harder. So I like to keep myself upbeat when it comes to my health, and that's in my fitness. My health and fitness is something that I truly don't take for granted, and believe it's extremely important, just not for myself, for others. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really digging into this research, just to see what I like personally when it comes to the intensity of high intensity interval training, how it may how others perceive it, and how people can possibly take this training regimen and use it to fulfill their fitness goals and fat reduction and muscle gains. And one of one scripture in the Bible, Corinthians chapter 6 verses 9 through 20, really states my beliefs, which states, don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself, for God bought you with a high price, so you must honor God with your body. And I truly believe this. If you don't take care of yourself, just mentally, physically, spiritually, how that says a lot about, in my opinion, your just not your relation, not your thought process on yourself and how you value yourself, but how you value God as a whole. The first scholarly article that I've reviewed that I feel is closely related to my my research is entitled "The Effects of High Intensity Intermittent Exercise Training on Fat Loss and Fasting Insulin Levels of Young Women." In this study, I mainly looked at the reduction of fat loss and how high intensity interval training affects overall fat loss once put in a longer program, which mine is 6 weeks and this one was done in 15. So the main purpose of this study was to investigate the effects of a 15-week high-intensity training program on subcutaneous and trunk fat. The procedure dealt with the 15-week program. First, the participants had to fast, and then various interval training was done on ergometers, which tested VO2 maxes, which deals with your cardiorespiratory system, and testing how your cardio improves through the through the program of whatever is set by the researcher. Lipid testing was also tested in regards to fat loss, along with DEXA, which is a one of the golden standard body composition tests when compared to like skin folds. The participants in the study consisted of 45 women between the ages of 20 and 22, and with a body mass index of 23 kilograms, which is kind of high. The methods in the study was quantitative. Different blood samples were taken, along with, like I said, cycloergometers being used to measure VO2 max, which also, like I said, deals with the cardiorespiratory system. The results in the study showed significant waist loss results in the high intensity group when compared to the moderate group or the control group in the study. In regards to the application, like I said, this mainly relates to my one of my research questions when trying to obtain the perceptions of fat loss with a high intensity interval training program within 6 weeks. So this one really just shows that possibly even though this training program is 15 weeks, with a 6-week program, we could probably see the participants in my study perceptions of fat loss, a positive perception instead of a negative one when it comes to fat loss being achieved with my program. The second article deals with the effects of high intensity interval training on cardiovascular function, VO2 max, and muscular force. The purpose of this study was to examine the effects of short-term high-intensity interval training on cardiovascular function, cardiorespiratory function, and muscular force. The procedure dealt with a 2 to 3 week training program, which is shorter than the last scholarly article that I mentioned before with the fat loss. Also included baseline testing, obtaining blood pressure and heart rate baseline testing before starting the 2 to 3 week program, and also muscular force baseline testing. The procedures, once they finished testing, dealt with 30-second intervals with active recovery for 5 minutes, so say just jogging or a nice paced cycle on the ergometers that they use in the test. And then also the Biodex system, which deals with muscular force and measures muscular force when doing like leg extension or curls or such exercises as that. So mainly lower body muscular force was measured in this study. The participants included 20 men and women. They were physically active, so they made sure of that first and foremost. The methods for this study was also quantitative, using a wing gait test, which tested anaerobic power, aka VO2 max, which deals with really testing the cardiorespiratory function in the participants. The Biodex tested muscular force, and the heart rate and blood pressure was also tested for the participants, which tested cardiovascular function. In regards to the results, anaerobic power increased in the HIIT training group, and there was no significant effects of heart rate and blood pressure. Any significant heart rate or blood pressure differences between the groups in the study. Maybe because of the length of the program, maybe you need a more extensive workout regimen to really see any effects in that area. But with this study, there weren't any significant changes in heart rate or blood pressure between the groups. And then last but not least, there was a significant increase in force output for the high-intensity interval training group with lower body force output. With this study, it really not only tests the improvement in overall health when it comes to the increase in cardiorespiratory function, but it also shows that muscle force is also improved, and with muscle force comes with muscle growth. So although there's not too much research that really tests overall muscle growth, actual muscle growth with high intensity interval training, this is a step to prove that perceptions, that positive perceptions can come from my study when researching the effects of HIIT on muscle gain. And last but not least, the last scholarly article that I looked into is titled High Intensity Aerobic Interval Exercise is superior to moderate intensity exercise for increasing aerobic capacity in patients with coronary artery disease. I really particularly gravitated towards this article because it wasn't the same as the other articles that I researched, which dealt with physically fit and well participants. With this group, the participants consisted of 21 stable coronary artery disease patients, which the purpose of the study was to assess the effects of high intensity aerobic interval exercise compared to moderate intensity exercise in stable coronary artery disease patients. The procedure first started off with male recruitment, sending out male surveys, and just to gain more information within a 40-mile radius from the hospital that they actually tested in. Once that was finished, consent forms were sent out, along with once consent forms were released and mailed back, the participants that were recruited had to do ECG testing, which dealt with testing the heart and the heart function and making sure that they were stable enough to participate in the study. And last but not least, the program lasted up to 10 weeks. The methods within the study were randomized and quantitative. So the 21 participants were randomly selected in 3 groups, which consisted of the high intensity interval group, the second one, the moderate intensity group, and the control group, which basically didn't there wasn't an actual regimen made for them. They just had to continue their day-to-day activity, physical activity, or whatever they participated in before the study. Also, with that being said, all the testing was done on a treadmill. Nothing, as extreme as the other tests, but mainly just strictly done on the treadmill. Results consisted of 17.9% increase in VO2 max, along with a 7.9 increase in moderate intensity group. So there's a significant increase with high intensity interval training group when compared to with using the coronary artery disease patients. So this mainly shows with my study, it displays improvement in overall health and vitality with HIIT. Although the participants in this study were not as healthy as the other articles that I've researched, but this really shows that even though if participants that doesn't have a background of being physically active and having a possible heart disorder, then people who are physically active can benefit from high intensity interval training as well and increase their overall health and vitality. And in this case, with my study, my procedure dealt with recruitment first and foremost from local gyms in Southern California. After that, consent forms will be sent out along with surveys, HIIT surveys, so high intensity interval training perception surveys, just really gaining the perceptions of my participants before the study begins. Once that is finished, exercise regimens will be sent out over a 6-week training program, which deals with free body movement, so no weights will be included. And last but not least, post-training perception surveys to see the perceptions of the participants after the regimen, the 6-week program regimen, training program is completed, and to see if there's any differences between the initial survey to the survey that has been completed after after the program. My participants will be 20 male and female, physically active, ages between 20 and 30, and my methods will be qualitative, with a phenomenology study background, meaning that I'm gaining more of written perceptions from my participants more than actual data collection, when it comes to like using treadmills or ergometers or DEXA systems such as that, or biodex systems. It's mainly the perceptions and written perceptions of my participants after a 6-week training program. My survey questions will deal with 10 demographic questions, mainly, for example, asking age, sex, their background in physical educate and physical fitness, how many days a week they probably most likely participate in physical activity. Likert questions will also be used in my survey, dealing with somewhat, agree, neutral, agree, definitely, answers such as that. And then last but not least, open-ended questions that will dig deeper into the participants' perceptions and background and exercise when it comes to fat loss and muscle gain overall.